Good afternoon, everybody. This is Mark with Waistdeep Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida. So, as I promised everyone out there, I said I was going to start doing a fishing report for wade fishermen. I put together some good info. I talked with some boat captains, I talked with some other fellow wade fishermen, some bait shops, and I got some good intel, and of course my own experience. So, let's begin. We'll start it up. Mount Lachey Bridge. So, if you don't have a kayak and you don't have a boat, well, Mount Lachey is a pretty good spot right now. Right now they're getting sheephead underneath the bridge, near the pilings, using shrimp, using small pass crabs, fiddler crabs, and green crab if you can get them. Also, you can cast from the side. There's a little little fishing area there with a bathroom, and you can throw those live bait, providing there's no one on the bridge, towards those pilings and get some sheep's head. But that's all about I got, except for a couple of snook at night. More towards the spring and into the summers when the big snook are going to be on that bridge. So let's move on. After that, I'm going to do the next report, and that is going to be on one of my favorite places where I cut my teeth, and that's the Burnt Store Marina Sandbar. It's one of my favorite spots to fish. It's almost a 4.5 mile flat, filled with grass, filled with potholes, tons of life. Just a wade fisherman's dream. So from the last report that I've got out there, heading towards Two Pines, once you get on the sandbar, just keep on walking. Get on that sandbar, keep on going until you start seeing that water transition from maybe 2 foot to 3 foot to 5 feet or 6 feet. If you are on the bar and it is a low tide and the tide is coming in, I would suggest casting parallel to the sandbar and running it along. There are some snook being caught out there, a couple of pompano here and there, but trout, there are some big trout out there, and you can catch them pretty much on anything. Soft plastics, my personal favorite, if I can get them, I'm going to be throwing some of my top water baits. You know what I mean? There's nothing like a top water bite. Also, I've been out there, and the redfish are up against the mangroves, and I've been catching them on small dark paddle tails, DOAs in a black and a gold spoon. But I've been also throwing a new secret weapon that I just started to use, and I'm not sponsored by them by any means, but I've also been using it with Procure crab scent, and that's a voodoo shrimp right there. So what I'll do is I'll get there on the end of a low tide, and I'll walk or wade about 50 yards out from the mangrove line. And as that water is coming in, those redfish are going to be pushing closer and closer to those mangroves. And the reason why they're doing that is because they're going to go after the crab, they're going to go after the shrimp, those mangroves are a good spot for them to ambush, and there's lots of life in there. So if you walk along there on the incoming tide, we've been seeing a lot of slot reds in between 18 and 27 inches along that mangrove line on the incoming tide. Now that's not to say you can't go out there and walk that flat, because you can, and fish the potholes as well. But I've been noticing that more of the redfish have been closer to the mangroves on the incoming tide. So let's go ahead and move on. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bokeelia. Bokeelia Pier has been getting sheephead, one after the other, a couple of rat reds that are hanging out underneath that pier. I don't fish there too much personally. It is a good spot, but I'm a wade fisherman. I got to be in the water and I got to be on the grass flats. So if you get a chance to get out to Bokeelia, take a walk, get into the water, start walking around the island of Bokeelia, and you'll notice power lines. When you see those power lines, there's a grass flat out there, probably, I'm going to say, about a mile and a half long. Now, there's a little bit different. On the low tide, in that particular area, those redfish will be sitting in the potholes. So, you want to get out there, semi early. The water's still a little cold in the morning, so I like to get out there on a negative tide. As this, after the sun has been up for about an hour or two, as that tide is coming in, those redfish and those trout are going to be sitting in the potholes. So again, throw your top waters across those potholes, throw your paddle tails across those potholes. A gold spoon, again, one of the best weapons out there. I don't know why it works, but it does. And I've been very impressed with this voodoo shrimp. Go pick yourself up one. This is the voodoo shrimp and fire tiger, and it works phenomenal. It's a great bait. I also use it with Procure crab scent, and I put that pretty much on all my soft plastics in the wintertime for redfish. In the summertime, I'll lean more towards mullet on my soft plastic baits. So the trout and the redfish have been pretty much on fire in Bokeelia. If you get there on that low tide and work that incoming tide, and providing there's not too much boat traffic and not too much wind, you're going to get them. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Now this is another little spot that not many people know about, and I had stumbled across it a while ago, and I went there in the summer, and I worked it really, really hard. I worked it the best as I could, and I found one little spot. If you keep on walking to the end of this mangrove line off of Ponce de Leon Park, you'll find that there's a point, and on that point, on the incoming tide again, you will see that there are redfish there. They are getting, let's see, from my reports here, I see that they're getting some snapper, some sheephead, a couple of jacks here and there. Snooker there, but they got lockjaw. From what I'm hearing, they're not feeding yet. Don't know why. There are a lot of black drum around that fishing pier. But if you want to go ahead and wade, if you're like me and you're a wade fisherman, go ahead and park that car, get away from that pier. You'll see a little area where you can get into the water, get into that water, and head to the right. And just walk along those mangrove lines and just start throwing on those grass flats and mud flats. Be careful because there are some deep holes there. Go there on a low tide, learn the area. There are fish there. There are redfish along those flats, and they are biting right now. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Let's see where we are here. Let's see. Pine Island Sound. Now you can go ahead and find lots of little spots in Pine Island to wade. Preferably I would say use a kayak if you're going to get around the Pine Island Sound, especially around the Rat and Tat Keys. There's tons of reds underneath the mangroves, and those reds right now are hitting pinfish under a float. I don't know why they are, but go ahead and put you on a popping cork with a pinfish on it, and the trout and the reds, they're tearing them up. Me personally, I'm going to be throwing artificials, but there are tons of reds out there. That's right around the Rat and Tat Keys. Also, there is some sharks, tarpon, and sheephead by the mangroves near Usepa, and there's a big bite out there for snook. From what they're telling me, I haven't personally been out there, but if you can get out near Usepa Island, kayak out there, a lot of big snook out there right now. So let's see what else we have here. Let me look. Let's see what we have here. Okay, Punta Rasa and Sanibel Island. Under the causeway, there's a little spot where you can park. I haven't been there personally, but from what they're saying and the reports that I have, they are catching trout and sheephead underneath. A couple of snook here and there, snook, underneath the bridge at night. A couple of bonnetheads up on the flats on the right side of the causeway, as if you were coming over heading to Sanibel. And that's really all I got for Punta Rasa and Sanibel itself. No, yeah, that's about it. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Captiva Pass. If you do have a boat, and this is just the only one I'm going to put out there because I do like to fish it. They've been getting some gag grouper and some tarpon out there up in the pass. I don't really do too much of boat fishing. You know, I'm a kayak, wade fishing guy. But if you're looking to get some gag grouper or some tarpon, Captiva Pass is where it's at, and they're getting them right now. So let's move on to Gasparilla Sound in the Tailing Flats. If you can get out there with the kayak, the snook and reds along with sheephead under the mangroves, ladyfish and trout on the sand, and there's a couple of Spanish mackerel hanging around, but there's tons of pinfish. So if you can get out there on the Tailing Flats of Gasparilla Sound, you know, be sure if you are a bait fisherman, you know, the pinfish, well, there's tons of them out there, so just be careful with that. If there's a lot of bait, you know what they say. Fish might not chew, you know, they have something to eat, so throw something different. Throw something that doesn't look like a pinfish, something out of the ordinary, and that might get their attention. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay. The West Wall, Oyster Creek, and Trout Creek. Another staple in that estuary. You have the East Wall where I wade fish, and the West Wall, unfortunately, you can't. You got to get there by kayak or you know, by boat. But if you can get there, the reds and the snook are moving around up and down the wall. If you keep looking, if you go up and down that wall with your kayak or your boat, you're going to find them. There are small signs of trout and pompano on the sandbar. There are also a lot of sharks out there. So if you are out there and you decide to get out of that kayak, be careful. There's a lot of reds. The reds are bigger than most of the snook that are out there right now. And in the creeks, Oyster Creek and Trout Creek, all those small little creeks leading out to the waterway, they're filled with rat reds. So if you're looking to, you know, go out there with your kids or a couple of your friends and you just want to catch rat reds all day, go hit Oyster Creek or Trout Creek. All right. So the next one I'm going to find here. Okay. Let's talk about another pier that I love to fish. El Jobim. Very, very interesting place. Been there for a long time. There are lots of snook there right now. Tons of snook in that river. That water was cold, so they all went up that river. If you go there, I would suggest, you know, going there at night, you know, on a good incoming tide, throwing some type of subsurface plug and running that plug along the pilings, you know, if you're an artificial guy, or, you know, throwing a jig down there. If you're a bait fisherman, well, you know, nothing wrong with a good old live shrimp. So from the reports that I got from El Jobim, we're looking snook, a couple of redfish here and there, a couple of trout here and there, but mostly snook. All right, so let's move on here and see what else we've got as far as the report. Excuse me, and I do want to say that the El Jobim Pier, there are some sheepshead. They're doing okay. There's a couple of trout, but the snook is the name of the game there. They're not there in huge numbers, but they are there. So be patient. Throw a couple of lures out there, switch it up. Hopefully you can get tight with one of them. What else do we have here? And last but not least, I will end this with some of the 41 bridges. There's going to be, if you don't know the area, what I'm talking about the bridge that goes over from Fort Myers to Port Charlotte. Well, if you look on the right side of that, there's a new fishing park that's there. You know, it was built up about a year or two ago. I've fished there a couple of times, and you can catch fish there. Right now, the report is telling me they have some. There's going to be some trout there by the power lines, as well as some snook and some black drum around the bridge pilings. The drum though are going to be better at night. Okay, so if you're gonna go there and fish for black drum, go there at night. As far as snook, they are around the seawalls, you know, if you can get to them. And that's really about it. That's all I got as far as the 41 bridges. I don't fish them that often, but when I do, I'm usually picking up trout and snook there. And I would say the best time to go there would be at dusk on an incoming tide. You know, right as that sun is going down, that water's coming in, you throw a paddle tail out there, hold on. So, that basically sums it up as far as my report for what's going on for the inshore wade fishermen for the past 15 days of February. So I do want to say thanks to everybody. Please stay tuned. It's going to get a lot more interesting. I'm going to be out there soon doing some really, really good video. I got some new equipment. So you're going to be very impressed with the stuff that you're going to see. And I do want to thank everybody. You know, please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like, hit the dislike, leave a comment. You know, let me know if there's something that you want to hear or you want to talk about. Feel free to leave something in the comments for me. So I do want to say thanks one more time to everybody. Again, this is Waist Deep Wade Fishing, Southwest Florida. I love yous all. I can't wait to make the next video and hear what everyone has to say. So until then, tight lines and get yourself a yellowmouth.